It's really nice. And we still even have the extra ones that go on stands, like box speakers. We have those, but it's easier to set up one that works. I know. Yeah. What are you guys running it through?
It's called OBS.
Hello, everyone.
Nice.
OBS, yeah.
Nice.
If you could take your seats, we will get started shortly. And we have seats for people with mobility issues, but if you're okay standing, don't take a seat. You can just stand and be comfortable as you will. And thank you all for being here. We will get started shortly.
Lily, can I throw my bag with your stuff?
Where is our CCTV cameraman? I'm supposed to alert him when we're getting started. What's it? Oh, we need to go. I think we get started in time. Is everyone doing okay? How about this beautiful weather? I can't hear you. How about this beautiful weather? And can you hear me okay? All right, so thank you all for being here. I'm Colin Fogarty, and I am lucky enough to be Executive Director of Confluence, a community-supported nonprofit with the mission to connect people with the history, with the living cultures, and with the ecology of the Columbia River system through Indigenous voices. And we are here to rededicate, I am reminded by our elder Patsy Whitefoot, not dedicate, rededicate the Confluence Land Bridge. So we'll talk about the improvements and the new artwork by our friend and artist Lillian Pitt, and we'll talk about all the new things at the Land Bridge and some of the work that we're doing at Confluence. And at the very end of this dedication ceremony, we will all gather together, as Jane Jacobsen would have us, and process together and march all the way up to the People Overlook to look at it together. So that will be at the end. But before we get started, we're going to have some words to get us started right, and some blessings, and we're going to begin with our friend Tana Engdahl with the Cowlitz Indian Tribe, and that will be followed by our other good friend Sam Robinson, who is on our board of directors and the vice chair of the Chinook Indian Nation. And I will take a moment right now to express our solid support and solidarity with the Chinook Indian Nation in their struggle to win federal recognition. So if you haven't written a letter, they've got some on their website, and you can do your part too to help that along. And followed by Sam, we will hear from our board member and Yakima tribal member and educator Patsy Whitefoot. And if they make it, Ed Edmo and John Edmo are on their way here, but I talked to them and they were finding their way. So look for the golf cart with them to be here soon. So with that, I will turn it over to Tana.
Now, if I put my footprints right on top of Colin's, I should be able to stand up. and not fall into the hole they're trying to hide. Well, Nicholas, good morning. I'm Tanit Y'all from the Cowlitz tribe. And what a joyous morning! Isn't this lovely? I'm just so happy to be here. On days like this, and being here on the grounds of this fort, we are so mindful of those who came before us, our ancestors. And it's because of the ancestors that I can speak to you this morning as a descendant, because they came with such courage, and that courage and perseverance goes beyond the grave. When our Cowlitz people were driven away from these lands, away from the rivers, a lot of the graves remained. So I think of us all standing on the graves of our ancestors, and for us, we stand on the shoulders of our ancestors, because that courage and perseverance carried through in our bones and our genetic code to survive and continue and continue and continue through generations, one generation passed to another, until we received federal recognition. We feel in our hearts the grief and the pain of the Chinook, because we will never forget the grief and pain as we go through a recognition process. But we know the Chinook were here, they were a tribe, a mighty tribe. And I like to say that you can tell that Sam and I are related, because we're both so good looking. So we bring this joy this morning. And for the elders, please do not stand, but the rest of you, stand with me as we pray to the Creator and ask a blessing for this day, for all that are here now, and all your relatives, and for a safe travel for all of you that are here now. And this just being one moment of your journey, we ask a prayer for your entire journey. But we also ask a blessing for all those who are not here, but who are here in spirit, because this land bridge has connections, the land to the water, and connections on so many levels. And in those connections, as you stand side by side and feel the energy of those who stand by side, we pray for that energy to weave its way through all of our people, all of our county people, all our populations, all of our state, all of our nations. And we ask that energy to help those who are in war and who are trying to save their nations. We Native people understand that very well. So I ask the blessing for this beautiful day, the Park Service, for the Confluence Project, and all who brought us together to share this magnificence. Oh, Nicholas.
Tillicum Tyee Shix. Tillicum Tyee Shix. Tillicum Tyee Shix. That's a greeting that you heard in our lake houses and uses it. Tillicum people, Tyee henchmen, people with status, and Shix friends. You know, it's a wonderful day here. You know, the Sakali Tyee, just broke that fog away, and brought the sunshine to us, was looking out the window before coming here, and I'm like, oh, it's foggy. I might have to put a jacket on. I don't wear jackets, you know. So it worked out really well for me, you know. Today we come here, you know, we come here for several reasons, you know. One of the reasons, you know, is to honor a dear friend of mine, you know, Jane Jacobsen, by you know, planting a tree for her, and that tree is going to continue on making a change for Earth as she did for all. She's always making changes for the good, and that tree is going to continue that work, you know. And then rededication of the land bridge, and just being able to get out and see all you folks is just a wonderful day. But with that, I would like to share a song today. It's called The Changers, and Dope Boss, and it refers to a lot of different changes that's happened over history. You know, originally this song was about when the animals were here before us, and they thought they were humans, and they were setting down all the laws that we're going to live by, you know, like coyote and eagle and wolf and salmon, and all the animals were set down and figure out how we were going to deal with, you know, life and death and birth and all the little taboos that our Chinook people lived by. They set those down before we came, and then we came, and that's where the Changer helped us out. And then, of course, you know, in Chief Seattle's famous speech, you know, he referred to the Changer as the Bostons, or the people that were coming into the territory, saying that life would not be the same for the Duwamish again, and it never was. But I would like to share this song with you today.
Shikmaitski, Inknashwinik Shashwapet, Ku Pashtunwiki, Patricia Whitefoot, Kutlaninam Ashanisha, the Confluence Rededication. Good morning. I introduce you in the language of our people of the Plateau tribes. I'm a citizen of the Yakama Nation and come from White Swan and was able to drive in this morning, unlike many of my ancestors who walked these trails, but I'm glad to be here with all of you for this rededication of the Confluence Bridge here. And as I was just listening to the songs and the prayers that were offered, it took me back to my ancestors as well. Many of our ancestors that are here as tribal people. And so in the case of my family, I'm glad I have my sister Marie Alney, who's with me today, to support me, but also to share stories is what we do when we're traveling around the Northwest. And that's not unlike what we did as children. As children, we traveled extensively around the Northwest to visit family. But also during this time of year, we'd be over here picking up our elder, our ancestor, who's no longer here, but as a child I recall her very vividly. And she was Mary Yoke Kiona, my grandmother's aunt. And so we would travel, over to the country, the Taitapon country, and we would pick her up and then we'd go back over the mountains. So this time of year she was living with us in a community called Medicine Valley. And she would be gathering the roots over there. And so she stayed with us for several months. When she was done, then we would come back and return her back over to the Randall area where she lived. And so this history is very important. And as we are here to rededicate the land bridge, I'm reminded of just so many things about the crossroads of life that we all encounter as a people. And this is one of those crossroads. It's the Klickitat Trail in our ancestry that we have. I'm not only just a Yakama citizen, but I'm also a descendant of the Taitapon people that are part of the Cowlitz tribe as well. And also Klickitat and Skin that are right along here, as well as Spokane over in the far east, and then Dene. And so when we think about that background that many of us as tribal people have, our challenge to you is also to know your background. What is your descendancy and where do you come from, and what is your tribal, your tribal ancestry history like too? Because I'm an educator, like Colin said, it's one thing I always challenge our professors that I work with to know themselves, to know who you are, your identity. And today as we conduct the rededication, I'm always mindful of the children that we represent, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. We represent them, but we also represent their identity. So encourage all of us to learn as much as you can about the history of the land bridge, but also about the land that's around you, and the people who were the first people of this land. And just help us to continue that kind of education that our children, all of our children need throughout the United States and internationally as well. So I want to thank Colin and the staff for all the work that they do on behalf of Confluence and the extensive work that goes on. And the railroad is a part of our history as well. It's actually a part of my Dene history. When I think about the role of railroad and the trains, you have to be Dene to know that. I lost my train of thought, so I'll let it be there. It'll come back to me. But it's such a pleasure to be here with all of you this morning, and look forward to crossing over that bridge once again. Thank you.
Shawnee Panic and the Nez Perce Yakima. Raised 95 miles east of here, and a place called Solano Falls. When the cold winter wind we're going down from eastern Oregon through the Columbia Gorge, I'd cover the mini quilts made by loving hands, by mom, aunties, and grandma. There'd be the crackle of the fire in the wood stove. My father would tell me stories. I thought I was getting stories, and I'd imagine in the culture handed down from generation to generation. He'd tell me legends to put me to sleep at night. I had no electricity, no running water. My bathtub in the summertime was in the Deschutes River. I really enjoyed it, yeah. Long time ago, there was no Columbia River. The cats and dogs of the Great Big Lake. It believes science that talk about the Missoula flood, where glacier melted up by the Missoula Dam 3.5 million years ago, forming the rivers and lakes of the Northwest. But that's science. Want to know what the Indians say? Coyote took a big stick to the top of the mountain and dug and sang a powerful song. Everybody could stick out, help me say it, could stick out, help me say it. Coyote took a big stick to the top of the mountain and dug and sang a powerful song. Help me say it, everyone. Coyote took a big stick to the top of the mountain, dug and sang a powerful song. Coyote took a big stick to the top of the mountain and dug and sang a powerful song. Come on, Anton, get your stick up. Coyote took a big stick to the top of the mountain and dug and sang a powerful song. Coyote took a big stick to the top of the mountain and dug and sang a powerful song. Coyote took a big stick to the top of the mountain and dug and sang a powerful song. Coyote took a big stick to the top of the mountain and dug and sang a powerful song. And the water broke through from what we call Enchiwana. Of Indians call it Columbia River, means big river. Columbia River is big river, right? Animal people moved down to the riverbanks to be closer to the water. Old Coyote would cry himself. He made Enchiwana. He was walking down Enchiwana to see what he made. He saw the animal people didn't have that much feed. Coyote cleared to the ocean. He saw many salmon swimming in the ocean. Used his power, told the salmon to swim upstream. That's how Coyote in Chihuahua. That's why the salmon swim upstream. That's a Caldwell legend. Thank you. My son John's going to sing a song for us. I run my storytelling business out of my house in Gresham, and I have a new policy today. I never turned on free food. Who likes free food? Raise your hand. Okay, tomorrow on 10th and Belmont, from 11 to 4, the Northwest Native American Arts and Culture Foundation is having free food. Musicians, artists, and storytellers, 11 to 4 on 10th and Southeast Belmont. Come there if you're hungry and spend money by native. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, John. Let me get this all set. All right, can you hear me okay? Maybe I'll try to get it. There we go, how's that? Everyone still doing okay? Okay. I should also mention that we are live streaming this, assuming it's working okay, Lily. Lily Hart is our digital content manager, and she's in charge of that. So thank you all for being here, and thank you to Patsy and to Tana and to Sam and Ed and John. We appreciate your good words. We are gathered at a confluence, not just of the Columbia River and the Klickitat Trail, but today we gather at the confluence of Earth Day, the confluence of our 20th anniversary as an organization. Confluence was founded in 2002. And it is the confluence of a major refurbishment of an iconic work of art and architecture here in Vancouver, the Confluence Land Bridge. And as you may know, the land bridge has 3 overlooks: the river, the land, and the people. And there are a series of major refurbishments that happened beginning with the new pavement and the new pathway. As you might have known from before, the pathway was made of decomposed granite, and it had started to deteriorate, and some potholes had formed, and the CFO of the city of Vancouver was jogging along over the land bridge, as people do, and said, we need to do something about this. And so the city of Vancouver, led by Mayor Ann, has been such a strong partner in refurbishing the land bridge and fixing it up right. So I just want to say thank you to everyone at the city of Vancouver, starting with the mayor, but also Johnny and Stacy and McKay Spizito was the engineering firm that helped design the project. And the crew from Colf did an amazing job replacing that decomposed granite with pavers along the way. It makes it beautiful, it makes it safe, it's a lot easier for maintenance in the long term. And secondly, we also redid and replaced the People Overlook and added new work by Lillian Pitt. These are basalt columns, and the images in the columns are of people, because it is the People Overlook, and we are gathered in the People's Village, Kanaka Village, historically, that rose up next to Fort Vancouver. But we also want to remember, and Doug Wilson will talk a little bit about this, that this was a trading area long before the Hudson's Bay Company located here. And this place was populated by people. And so the People Overlook deserved a refurbishment, deserved new artwork. There's of course new plants there too, because this is a monument to the land. And it is a reminder that the people have always had a reciprocal relationship with the landscape here, and it is our responsibility to hold that legacy and take care of that too. So please celebrate the new artwork by Lillian. It looks beautiful. I should tell you, it was done on Sunday. This past Easter Sunday it was completed. And I have a series of thank yous that I'm going to go through to make sure we give credit to everyone who made this possible, because it really was a group effort to do so. Wasn't it funny when Patsy said she lost her train of thought when the train was going by? So I almost lost mine. I did lose mine for a moment. But I do want to say, and I shouldn't say this, but we have a joke at Confluence that you know, my name's Colin, so we don't talk about decolonization, because that means getting rid of me. But we do talk about re-indigenizing, places. And it seems to me that the Hudson's Bay Company is here, the U.S. military was here, and now the National Park Service is here. But this was first and always will be Indigenous land. And the People Overlook is a reminder of that. So I want to talk a little bit about Jane. Jane Jacobsen was our founding director, a force of nature, and she's the one who brought the good weather today. And if you can see up here, I'm going to point to it. There is a new sapling there. There is a new tree, if you can see it. It is a sugar maple tree that hopefully will bring sweet sap and sweet syrup, and in the fall it will turn bright red. We wanted a tree to honor Jane near the People Overlook because Jane was all about people. And we wanted it to be a bright tree that everyone would see, and that Jane would be there greeting people across the land bridge. So she will greet you there, and you will see a plaque in her honor there. And one thing I have learned from our Native friends is that the spirit that you bring to any work and any object will be imbued into that object. So for example, you don't want to weave a basket feeling angry or feeling sad, because that object will be imbued with that feeling. And I want to tell you, for those who were there, when we planted that tree, we were laughing. We laughed a lot. And we had a good time, and it felt like Jane was right there with us. We were being silly with taking funny pictures and digging a hole. And so that tree was planted with a good spirit, and it will be here to honor Jane and her legacy. And we are all here in her legacy. So that tree will also be part of the City of Vancouver's Witness Tree program. Okay, I'm going to get back on script. So this is a good moment to also announce a new programming initiative that we've created in honor of Jane and her legacy. And today we are launching the Jane Jacobsen Cultural Scholarship for Indigenous women in Clark County, Washington, who create a cultural project to advance their work in education. It is a $2,000 scholarship for 3 Native women with cultural or family ties to Clark County, generously funded by Empower Women and Girls, a local group that Jane was a member of, and created in support of Clark County women and all of their support. So let's hear it for this program. So I'll turn it over to our esteemed speakers shortly, but first I would like to thank everyone who made this refurbishment possible. And the first person I want to thank is the person most responsible for making all of this happen, and that is our program manager, Courtney Yelk. She was in charge of it all, and I'll tell you, she was out here painting at 8 p.m. on Wednesday night, because it was the only dry part of the day, and she was painting earlier and the paint was. So thank you, Courtney. She worked her butt off for this, and it is largely because of her that this project was done on time. Thank you, Courtney. So again, I want to thank the City of Vancouver, and especially Jan Bader and Stacy Donovan and the whole facilities department. Thank you to the National Park Service, to Lillian Pitt and her entourage that includes Ben Dye. He was the one with the excavator putting in the basalt this past Easter Sunday. Thank you, Ben. Juno Lockman did the engravings on the basalt, so thank you, Juno. Dwayne Lane, who's a Yakima tribal member and founder of 1855 Plants. When you see the native plants that are up there, he's responsible for the planting. And he was actually out here just yesterday morning planting plants in time for the dedication ceremony. We also want to thank Aaron Ray and Jesus Hia for the landscaping design and installation. And we especially want to thank Figure Plant, the design build firm, for designing and fabricating and installing the nameplates that you'll see, the 9 Indigenous words for people. Those things aren't going anywhere. They made them seriously robust. So thank you to Figure Plant for doing that. And thank you also to the Historic Trust for ripping out overgrown roses to make way for the basalt artwork. And they were also responsible for the golf cart today, so thank you for the Historic Trust. And thank you to all of our volunteers for showing up for this event and for making it all possible. And we want to also thank everyone who funded the Land Bridge refurbishment, beginning again with the City of Vancouver, which spent a big chunk of change to repave the project, and that was the biggest part of it. We also want to thank the city's Arts Fund, which helped us get started. The Cowlitz Tribal Foundation Clark County Fund funded the artwork and made it possible, and so did the Price Foundation. Paul and Debbie Spear, who are here, thank you so much. Thank you also to the Samuel S. Johnson Foundation and Betsy Johnson herself for making this possible. Okay, with that, I will introduce our next series of speakers. First, we're going to hear from National Park Service Ranger and historian Doug Wilson, who will talk about this place. And then Mayor of Vancouver, Anne McInerney-Ogle, will be here to speak and say some words, and followed by Fort Vancouver Superintendent Tracy Fortman, and we will end the program with our founding board chair, Anton Mingthor. So thank you all.
Thanks, Colin. This is a special place. This is an amazing place. So we've talked about all the people that had ties to this area, Indigenous people. It's always great for me to hear the drums and the singing. It reminds me of my childhood. My mom was born and raised in Gallup, and we would go to visit my grandmother, and we'd go and see all the dances and the songs, and it always warms my heart, and I think of my ancestors when I hear those drums. So that's cool. But this place is a special place because the prairie comes to the river. And when they were building the land bridge, a little closer? I could just step closer, there we go. When they were building the land bridge, you probably don't know this, but they integrated some of the landscape features in it. So you see there was a pond here, and that bridge section of the land bridge is the northern edge of where that pond is, and the boardwalk is the kind of the center of the pond. That pond linked the prairie with the river, and there was a village that was located on the edge of that pond next to the river. And since time immemorial, Indigenous people used and lived on this landscape and on the river. And the tribes called it the meadow or Turtle Place, depending on which tribe they were with. But it was an amazing Indigenous place. And I was looking around today to see if any of the camas had begun to bloom, because in the next few weeks, camas, that is the living legacy remnant of that prairie, will be blooming right kind of where we're standing and along the edges of the airfield. And that still lives from that time. There's also the oak, the white oak, that was part of that original Indigenous landscape that lies underneath everything here and is represented on the sorts of things that you find on the land bridge. Now, the fur traders came and they thought this prairie was great. George Simpson, who was the most powerful man in Canada, the head of the operations of the Hudson's Bay Company, said this would be a great place to farm. This would be a great place for our pigs because they could root up those roots, that camas that was here. And so there was the fort came, they called it Fort Plain, and they started doing agriculture. And there was a village that grew up, and many tribal people from the area were either married to people that were at the fort or were working for the fort. But there were people from all over the world tied to the fur trade that wound up here. There were Native Hawaiians, the Kanakas, came out with the fur trade, and at the 1850s, there were so many Native Hawaiians living in the village just to our west here that they called it Kanaka Village or Kanaka Town, which is probably a epithet by the white settlers, but I think today we can reflect on how important that was to have that Native Hawaiian presence here. But there were people from all over the world. There were people from the East Coast, the Haudenosaunee came out, the carriers from Canada. There were people from tribes all throughout the Pacific Northwest, and there were Europeans, there were the English, the Scots, the Welsh, there were people from the very topmost part of Scotland, the Orkney Islanders, the Shetlanders, and there were other people from Europe, like Portuguese sailors, that wound up here at Fort Vancouver and living in the village and living together, which I think is a really important thing because we have so much division in our world today. But back then there were many people from all over the world, and they found a way to live harmoniously, relatively harmoniously in the village here. And it was only for a short period of time, but it was an important time, I think. And a lot of people have ties to this place through that village or through the indigenous people that were here before the Hudson's Bay Company got here. And so when you walk across the bridge, think about that, the original prairie, the river, the sorts of things that were growing here, but also the many different people that came in a confluence to this place and were related to it. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Ann McInerney, Ogle Mayor for the City of Vancouver, and when Colin was saying this is the confluence, it truly is, for a number of different reasons. Cars, trucks, planes, and trains. So when you think about all of this, it is truly a gathering place. Tana, thank you so much for the beautiful blessing. Sam, thank you for the song, and that was a great article about Destiny in the Columbia newspaper. Patsy, thank you so much for driving down and sharing. And Ed and John, the song and the story was wonderful. And now I'll look at this motion a little bit differently for a long time. We are here to thank a number of people, and Councillor Harless and I are standing, as Hannah, you brought up, standing on the shoulders of those that went before us. And Mayor Tim Levitt and Councillor Larry Smith were here, and they helped make those decisions. Thank you, Tim. Because this is a very important place, and as I'm sure you saw in the front page of the Columbian, this is a beautiful setting that we want to keep. When you're talking about a bridge from land to river, we continue the conversation of talking about a bridge from land over river to land. And connecting people. And that's what this whole area has been all about. When Jane Jacobsen started a long time ago, and Colin, you are absolutely correct, that little sugar maple up there on the hill is so perfect for Jane. She was a baker, serious baker. And when she lived back east, she baked for helping her family. Can you imagine making 20, 30 loaves of bread every day to sell for your family? I'm lucky to get 2 loaves, or maybe a couple dozen pies or something like that. But she truly was a force of nature, and she wouldn't want this to be a memorial for her. With her excitement and her energy, she would be beaming on a beautiful day like this to see the rededication of a beautiful piece of artwork. So this has so much symbolism to it. Connecting people, connecting the land, connecting all of us. I'm so tickled that you came out today. You fought the fog, you put your extra layers on. This transition of winter to summer, it cannot be, it's a little tricky with snow and hail and small tornadoes. But thank you for coming and joining us. And if you ever find a little graffiti up there, I just happen to have about 3 gallons of paint that matches that wall. It's called Babies for Summer. Let me know. Thank you so much. So hi, I'm Tracy Fortman, and I'm the superintendent here at Fort Vancouver National Historic Site. And first of all, thank you for those who spoke before me. You're all very special to me, and I think it's a hard act to follow you all. I will be brief, which is hard for a superintendent to do at times, but I promise to do that. Today is a day of celebration. It is a time to rejoice. But I have always felt to know where you're going, oftentimes you need to know where you've been. And so today, as has been shared already, is a day of reflection. And so, first of all, before I share the few thoughts I have, I'd like to have everybody who ever worked with Jane raise your hand. Whoever met Jane, raise your hand. If she was a family member, raise your hand. If you've heard of Jane, raise your hand. So let me tell you, today, I believe Jane made sure it was a beautiful sunny day. And if you knew Jane, you knew she had something to do with it. So thank you, Jane. I would like to step back, and if you bear with me for just a moment, I would like you all to close your eyes. And no peeking, because I want you to look in your mind's eye. When I came on board as superintendent in 2000, I was approached by a partnership effort to address this crossing. So visualize right here where we are, a metal, formidable, caged, snaking ramp that reached skyward over 14 caged steps down into Old Apple Tree Park. That was what was presented to me as the new superintendent. So now everybody, have you got that mental notion in your mind? Now open your eyes and look what we have. Feast on what we have. So while that caged crossing was functional, did what it had to do, I guess I knew in my heart, my gut, even if I was just new here, I knew this needed to be something more. That concept, a functional, not very pretty, but functional concept, I didn't believe was worthy of our community, worthy of the Pacific Northwest, worthy of our history, worthy of a national park. So that began to trek. We were actually in the middle of putting together, well, hello there, cutie. We were in putting together a general management plan for the national park. And we had contracted with Jones & Jones, and their lead architect, Nancy Rottle, who's now a professor at UW, I believe, worked with us, and she was the first person who came up with a concept, a broad stroke concept of a land bridge. And that concept went through a public planning process. It was embraced, and it is within our formal, officially approved general management plan from 2004. But you know, a vision, a dream, as wonderful as it is not reality. And those of you who know me, I'm in the business of producing. There are a lot of people being busy. I have always focused on what I can do to make a difference. And I knew that as magnificent a notion of this land bridge, it would need a champion who could make it a reality. And we are so fortunate that Jane Jacobsen, I don't know how you would say other than was marveled with the concept, knew how important it was. She became the champion. Jane, with that twinkle in her eye, that amazing smile, the loving nature of who Jane Jacobsen was, is in many ways embraced in this land bridge. And Jane has done many, many things throughout the community and throughout the entire Pacific Northwest. And certainly just this legacy would have been more than enough. But Jane did even more, because this will live on. And she created the Confluence organization that is doing much important work elsewhere throughout the region. And she has an incredible board. Many of the board members are here today. Because of that board, because of Jane's leadership, working with the City of Vancouver and the National Park Service and others, we have a land bridge here today. So this is the power of love. This is the power of community. This is the power of partnership. And when we come together and choose to do something of lasting importance, we can do it. And we did do it. So I want to thank today all of you who came. And the weather was not predicted to be nice, but you came. And Jane came through for us, and there's sun shining down. And I look forward to walking with you across the land bridge. Thank you to Confluence. I know the land bridge will continue to be in good stead. Thank you, City of Vancouver. Thank you to the board, to everybody who loves this place as much as I and our community does. Because together, we will continue to make this not just the land bridge, as far as I'm concerned, is a national venue now. People come from all over the world. And they should, because it represents so much in so many ways. So today, let us rejoice. Let us reflect on the past. And as our mayor, our wonderful mayor said, yes, we all stand on each other's shoulders as we move forward. And I know the land bridge, because of the Confluence, because in the board and the city and the National Park Service and this community will be here for many, many, many years to come to serve many, many of our visitors and people who care about this place. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. And I'm going to bring the microphone over to our founding board chair, Anton.
Good morning, my friends and relatives. My name is Anton Minthorn, or Big Don, and I come from Eastern Oregon, the Umatilla Indian Reservation. I am a Cayuse Nez Perce and Umatilla tribal member, and I am a former officer, the chairman of the Board of Trustees for the Confederated Tribes of Umatilla. And I was the chair when this idea came up of the Lewis and Clark, to participate in the Lewis and Clark bicentennial. And at the time the bicentennial was coming around, we were wondering if we should participate in it or not. And we decided to go to participate in the bicentennial because the Umatilla tribe had accomplished so much at that time, that the tribe had restored salmon and water to the Umatilla River, and the tribe had built an economy. The Wild Horse Hotel complex was built at that time. And the tribes were able to do that because they had their sovereignty and self-governance restored to them, and they were able to make those decisions. And when we decided to participate in the Lewis and Clark Bicentennial, then we assigned our planning department to participate in the planning events that went on. And Jim Beard was our founding director, and he came here to Vancouver, and that's where he met Jane Jacobsen. And then he said that Jane and her group in the Utah were thinking about the same thing of how to participate in the it's a legacy. We had met Jane, and then Jane also knew Mylin. And then Jane and Mylin, we traveled back to DC to talk with her, and then Mylin decided to participate or to help with a bicentennial event of how we're going to participate. But because what the tribes had accomplished, the Umatilla tribes at that time, building, restoring natural resources and building economies, that the public should know what the tribes were doing, what was going on at that time, that the tribes were self-governing, they were sovereign, and they were making a big presence in their communities, helping the whole community, not just the tribe, the entire community was benefiting from that. So Jane and Mylin then created that Confluence project, and then began to travel up and down the Columbia River, locating these sites that we have, the 6 sites, 7 sites that we have. And then of course the land bridge was one of those that were completed, and I see it today. I said, oh, wow, that is really tremendous. It's restored, brings back the environment. It's just a huge accomplishment, and I think it really adds to Vancouver, the city of Vancouver, and I really thank them for supporting the Confluence project and the land bridge. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. All right, do we have are we good with that feedback? Okay. Thank you for your words, Anton. We appreciate that. And thank you all for being here. I am an executive director of a small nonprofit, so it is my job to make sure and remind all of you that we can only do this work because of the support of the friends and legacy makers of Confluence who make it all possible. If you are a friend or legacy maker, thank you so much for your support, and if you would like to become a friend and a donor of Confluence, we have a Donate Now button on our website, confluenceproject.org, and we have envelopes over here. So thank you all for supporting our work. And I want to end with 2 notes. One, I want to point out that, Anton. Yes. And Anton is reminding us that this is a win-win. Everybody benefits, which is the model for tribal treaties and for economies of the Northwest. These are the things we have learned from Anton, to look for the win-win, which is what Jane did, and the Confluence Project is a win-win, so thank you, Anton. And I want to end by also thanking Johnpaul Jones. As many of you know, the land bridge is the only Confluence site that is not designed by Maya Lin. It was designed by architect Johnpaul Jones of Seattle. So can we please give a round of applause to Johnpaul, because he couldn't be here with us, and we appreciate his support, and we also really appreciate his beautiful design for the land bridge. And I'll just end on this note, because over the last few years, I'm going to gather my thoughts. Last many years, there have been a lot of thoughts and discussions and consternation about monuments across the country. This is a monument to the land. It's a monument to the river, and it's a monument to the people. But monuments just don't just end when construction is done and the fundraising is over and you close the books on the thing. A monument continues on into the future because we all have a relationship with our history and we all have a relationship with our shared landscape. That's what the land bridge is all about. It's not just about finishing the artwork. It's number one about taking care of the artwork for generations to come, because that's what Confluence is all about. And secondly, it's about building a system and a program of education around the monuments, because we're talking about who we are as people, how we've gotten here, and like rivers coming together toward one ocean destination, we all have a future together. And ultimately, that is what the land bridge is all about. So we are going to proceed to the People Overlook, and Mayor Ann, would you mind leading the procession? Because you're wearing red. And I think, so if everyone can see Mayor Ann, she will lead our procession up to the People Overlook. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. Take care.
How are you gonna capture that?
I don't know. I think I'll run up right at the end and then get some like small stuff. But,
Yeah.
but roll me on the cart and I'll just be in front of everyone.
Yeah, I lost my brother and lost my grandma. All in the same week too. I'm like, boom. Recovering from one, then that just boom.
I'm sorry.
It's like,
It's hard. It's hard.
I know.
Oh, okay. So yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, we were just, I was up in this Gambia. Holy moly. I'm like, I want to go back now. Every time now. Every time I'm like, everybody who's not a travel member can't get there. You have to have a passport or a visa.
Perfect. Sorry. I think it's again the fort. There, Courtney's texting someone to come get their stuff.
Maybe I'll walk on the other side.
I'll walk on.
Okay.
Right there?
Yeah.
Cool.